All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started for the sake of time. So hello, everyone. I'm excited to welcome you to day two of the 2025 Transfer Student Leadership Summit. My name is Jeff Mayo, and I serve as the director for the First Year Experience Office at UT Austin. I'll soon hand it off to my colleague, Carolyn Price, program coordinator for the Transfer Year Experience within our office, to moderate a panel discussion on intra and inter-campus connections and their importance in creating a thriving transfer landscape. Just like yesterday, we are beyond thankful for your time and attention today and for such an amazing turnout. For those of you who are new to the summit, I'll just point out that the Transfer Summit originally started in 2017 as an in-person event on our campus. Our TYE team worked to create this event that would allow students to have a space to connect with their transfer peers and share transfer programming tips from their campuses. Since 2021, this event has transitioned to a virtual summit, which has been incredible for us to be able to connect with transfer students, transfer advocates from across the country. With all that in mind, here are some of our objectives for this event. This one, the first one is to spread ideas and initiatives far and wide. These ideas will come from our panelists and student presenters for sure, but we hope that you'll share your own insights and expertise in the chat. Second, we want to amplify student voices. Since we know that so much of what is accomplished for transfer students on college campuses comes from students themselves, we hope that any students participating will be involved in the chat, and feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. Tell us your institution, your transfer affiliation. Third, we want to build a proud and informed transfer network. We want all transfer students to be able to bond over that shared experience and feel comfortable sharing their transfer student pride. And this ties into our final objective, creating a professional and supportive virtual conference environment. So for undergrads who might be new to a professional development opportunity, and also for seasoned staff and faculty, let's support each other with active and respectful participation in the chat. A few quick reminders for this session. Please keep your microphone muted unless you are speaking to ensure that we can all hear our presenters. Next, please take a moment to ensure your name and pronouns are displayed as you would like them to be on your Zoom profile. Next, I want to remind you that together we know a lot, but alone we will never know it all. So please engage in the chat with your and with your presenters during their Q&As. We'll be using the Q&A function inside Zoom to monitor the questions for the panelists and for the presenters later. So please use that function as well. We are all here to learn, so the more you participate, the more we can learn from each other. Lastly, I want to remind you to create space for a range of experiences and viewpoints. Transfer can share a number of common experiences, but each of our stories is unique. All right, now some quick announcements before we get into our content. As you may have seen in the invitation, we'll be raffling off a pair of Apple AirPods today. And so right now on the screen, you'll see a QR code that will take you to our sign-up sheet. We'll also post a link in the chat throughout the first half of the session. So please fill out this form if you'd like to be entered into the raffle. We'll conduct the raffle at the end of our session today. You do need to be present at the end of the session. Yesterday, we did go about 3 minutes over. We'll do our absolute best to end on time. But you do need to be present as we pick a winner from the spinning wheel later on. Next, I encourage you to connect beyond the summit today by sharing what you learned with your peers and colleagues, following transfer accounts, including We Are Transfer Nation on Instagram. Yesterday, Transfer Nation posted to their Instagram stories throughout the session, so please go check them out and join their conversation online. You can check out recordings of our previous summits at our website, Transfer Summit website. You can connect with your fellow participants after this and use this as an opportunity to connect with others who want to support transfer students across the country. We'll also be periodically dropping a link to our box folder for the summit, which will have, it currently has our project management document, which I'll discuss on the next slide. It will have slides from yesterday. We'll eventually have slides from today. We'll have everyone who agreed to share their contact information as part of our networking document. That will be there as well as links to resources and websites that we referenced yesterday and today. Lastly, hopefully you won't encounter any issues with the tech. But if you get kicked out of our Zoom call or you have a coworker who is having trouble with Zoom, please have them email tye@austin.utexas.edu for support. We are live streaming the webinar on YouTube, so that is another option if your Zoom is as difficult as mine is to use some days. So that is also an option for you or your colleagues. As I just mentioned, when we have a project management document, when this summit pivoted to an online event in 2021, we developed this document to help participants think through how to bring change to their campus. It is grounded in project management principles and has served to help as a helpful tool for our team in thinking through topics like what is in or out of scope of the work, who are the stakeholders, best forms of communication, and identifying roadblocks or resistance to the project. We're dropping the link in the chat now to the folder that holds this document. You may find it helpful to look through it as our panelists get started and while you're kind of brainstorming and creativity is sparking. And we hope that you'll discuss some of the questions and prompts from this document with your transfer team at your institution. So with that, I will turn things over to Carolyn Price, who will be moderating our panel discussion today.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'll be introducing our topic and our panelists today. It's so good to see so many of you from yesterday. Good to see you back. And those of you who did not join us yesterday, it's good to see you again as well. So, as we all know, transfer students are integral to colleges and university communities. And no discussion of state of higher education would be complete without the transfer landscape. Nationwide, many transfer students begin their academic journeys at community colleges before moving to four-year institutions, as they can provide affordable and accessible pathways for students seeking a degree. Recent data indicates a positive trend. In the fall of 2024, the number of college students transferring to a new institution increased by 4.4%, according to the National Student Clearinghouse.
No, go for it.
However, despite this upward trend, there is still considerable work to be done.
I hear it's a great
number of community college students who transfer to four-year institutions. Nationally,
it's not
only about 16% of community college students earn a bachelor's degree within 6 years. 1 second, I'm just going to see if we can mute whoever is off mute right now.
I just got it, Carolyn.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. Okay. Back to our topic. Nationally, only about 16% of community college students earn a bachelor's degree within 6 years. Barriers including cost and distance and transfer credit issues and limited institutional support can often contribute to those low rates. Equity gaps remain pronounced, with students from low-income backgrounds and underrepresented groups facing additional hurdles in the transfer process. To address these issues, institutions and policymakers nationwide are focusing on solutions like strengthening partnerships between 2-year and 4-year institutions, enhancing advising systems, creating statewide transfer programs, and other programs. The increasing attention on this demographic underscores the need for faculty, staff, and administrators to actively facilitate not just the transfer process, but also the successful completion of degrees. As we delve into the transfer experience today, our panelists will share their experiences supporting transfer students and creating transfer pathways to promote bachelor's degree completion among transfer student populations. Both our panelists have extensive experience fostering connections both on and off campus that promote transfer success. Today, we will highlight the importance of creating relationships both within your campus community and with other 2- and 4-year institutions to improve the transfer experience. We hope that our discussion will underscore the need for students, staff, and administrators to continue to advocate for transfer students, whether it be at the institutional level to improve policies that affect transfer students, or on the individual level supporting transfer students and transfer leaders on your campus. So with that, it is my pleasure to introduce our 2 panelists. So Shelby Burrows-Prisgoda serves as the Director of Upward Bound at Colorado Mesa University, where she is dedicated to supporting low-income, first-generation high school students in their pursuit of higher education. Hailing from a rural farming community in eastern Wyoming, Shelby began her academic journey at her local community college before transferring to the state's lone 4-year institution. She received her Master of Arts in Education from Colorado Mesa University, where her research focused on transfer and first-generation student success through strategic institutional partnerships. Shelby's personal experience as a transfer student fuels her passion for facilitating seamless transitions for others. Before her current role, Shelby worked in college admissions and transfer services, honing her skills in guiding students and families through the complexities of higher education. Nick Turinsky, our other panelist, currently serves as the project manager for the Transfer Bridges to the Humanities program at the University of Michigan. Transfer Bridges is a grant-funded initiative through the Andrew Mellon Foundation that promotes humanistic and social science experiences to community college students while providing individualized support to transfer to the University of Michigan. Nick received his Master of Education in College Student Affairs Leadership from Grand Valley State University in Michigan, where he focused his research on transfer student populations and LGBTQ+ issues in higher education. Nick has been working with transfer students for over 7 years and is planning to continue to do so for the rest of his professional career. Thank you both for being here. Just as a reminder to everyone, please add your questions to our Q&A feature. That's just the easiest way for us to view all of your questions at once. So sometimes questions can get lost in the chat, so please do use that Q&A feature, and feel free to drop questions in the Q&A throughout our panel discussion. All right, so starting with our first question for both panelists. We always like to ask this as our first question for all of our panel discussions. Because transfer is a pretty specific area of higher ed, which is often considered a pretty niche area of expertise itself. How did you both get into the world of transfer? We'll start with you, Shelby.
Thanks, Carolyn, and hi, everybody. It's been fun to see where everybody's coming from today. That's the beauty of these online conferences. Again, my name is Shelby Burrows-Prisgoda. I use she, her pronouns. Getting into the world of transfer kind of happened by accident. I'm originally from a really small farming town in eastern Wyoming. And when I was growing up, really the only access that we had to college and higher education was through our local community college. And so all of our sports camps were there, science camps, any sort of activity that we had growing up was hosted at the community college. And so it was a no-brainer when I graduated high school to go on to Eastern Wyoming College and earn my associate's degree. And then really came to find out the challenges that come with transferring from a small school to a 4-year institution. and had that lived experience of feeling like a freshman in a junior's body and not quite sure, how am I supposed to get on the bus, and why does this campus even have a bus? And once I graduated from the University of Wyoming, I wanted to give back to students in the way that advisors had given back to me. And a position opened up at my current institution, Colorado Mesa University, to do just that and work with transfer students through the admissions process. And it's been so fun because it's not just our traditional age transfer students that we were working with. We're working with parents coming back to get a different degree, or students coming from a break in education to change the direction that they're going. And it's just such a wonderful and diverse group of folks to work with. So I'm excited to talk all about it today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Nick, how about you? How'd you get into the world of transfer?
Yeah, thank you so much, Shelby. It was really fascinating to hear about you and your beginnings. But thank you, Carolyn. Thank you, Jeff, for inviting me to be here today. I'm so excited to talk about my own experience and the transfer landscape at the University of Michigan. So my beginning was a little different. I went to Michigan State University. My bachelor's degree was in broadcast journalism and political science. During that time, I loved telling other people's stories. I was so fascinated by what they had to share, what was going on in their life, and sharing that with the community. During my time at Michigan State, I realized that higher education was actually the better path for me. I was a resident assistant in the residence halls, and I was like, I am going to live in the residence halls the rest of my life because this is fun. This is what I meant to do. So when I was interviewing for grad school programs, I was offered two roles. So one was in residence life as a graduate assistant. The other was in the Office of Admissions, working with transfer students and transfer student orientation. And so in my head, I was like, well, I've done the residence life thing for 3 years. That was fun, but like maybe it's time for a new challenge, like before I jump back into the residence life world. And I didn't really have much knowledge on transfer students. So I decided to go with the transfer student admissions in the Office of Admissions at Grand Valley. And it completely changed both my personal and professional life. As I mentioned, that was something I loved, hearing people's stories and sharing them. And that's what I felt like with all of our transfer student interactions. Each transfer student had such a powerful story, whether they believed it or not. Their path to getting to that point of meeting with me was just so inspiring to me. And it just completely, like I said, changed the trajectory of my grad school time, focusing on my thesis with transfer students and then my professional career. Once I graduated, I knew that transfer students, that was the population that I wanted to work with. It just so happened that the University of Michigan at the time was beginning this new program called Transfer Bridges to the Humanities. For those of you who aren't aware, and I'm happy to share this, up until that point, the University of Michigan was really limited in their transfer resources. They prioritized first-time students. And so this was really something that grabbed my interest, that this Transfer Bridges to the Humanities grant was going to really be the accelerator to improve the transfer resources at U of M. And it certainly has, after being part of this for 7 years. One story that I shared that I always stick with me, and I apologize, I sometimes can be a little long-winded, but one story that always sticks with me, when I first started at my role at the University of Michigan and we were going to our 3 partner community colleges, I met a student who came to me and who was very nervous, non-traditional student, said that, his father passed away when he was in high school. He decided to just kind of drop everything and move to Florida and attend a university there. First gen student, failed out, was working as a barista, decided to come back up to Michigan, working as a barista and living at home with his mom. And decided to just take one course. And he was like, Nick, it's always been a dream of mine to come to the University of Michigan. But I don't know how. I'm not good enough, just how competitive it is. And I'm like, well, we have this program, this brand new program that we're doing. I think you'd be a great participant. And this student did everything that we had offered. I mean, he took advantage of every single resource. He got into the University of Michigan. as studying political science, and he actually works on Capitol Hill now for one of the Congress members. So I keep that story in the back of my head just because that was something that stuck with me, 6 years ago or 7 years ago, one of my first ever conversations with a transfer student who really had a lot of self-doubts about transferring to an institution like the University of Michigan. And just seeing their successes now, that's something that inspires me each and every day as we hear these stories. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing. I love hearing those experiences, both your own experiences with the transfer world, but also the experiences you've had with students since working with transfers. So my next question for both of you is, reflecting on your experiences, what are some common misconceptions that you think people have about transfer students that staff and administrators should be aware of? And how can addressing these misconceptions lead to better support and integration of transfer students into their campus communities? And Nick, we can start with you this time.
Absolutely. Great question. And so something that I think has actually evolved over the past several years, and I think that COVID really made us aware of some of these misconceptions as well. So something that we really our mindset, and again, being, full transparency, and I'm an open book and I will acknowledge our challenges and our shortcomings. One thing that we had this mindset of, when we were doing our initial programming in Transfer Bridges was, transfer students, they need to be more flexible with, with how they engage with us, right? Like we have our office hours from 9 to 5, like that's what we do. That's when our programming falls in on, because we really thought, if they thought, it was kind of that mindset of if they want to go to the University of Michigan, this is kind of what we're offering. But COVID kind of changed that, where we're like, wait a minute, we had to self-reflect on our own processes. And we're like, we are the ones that need to be flexible. These transfer students, especially, we have a lot of non-traditional transfer students, they want to be engaged. They want to participate in these opportunities that we are offering, but we are limiting them based on when we're offering them and the specific resources in each of these opportunities. So this was something where we're like, we have to be more mindful of our own, flexibility. We are the ones that need to be flexible. Exactly. Meet students where they're at, Stella. Absolutely. And that was something that, again, because we were new at these initiatives, we were still kind of getting our feet on the ground. And, so we were like, if there's one thing from COVID, it was like, we need to, we have such a plethora of opportunities, but low attendance because we're not meeting students where they're at. We're not offering evening advising hours. We're not offering evening workshops. In some of our internships and fellowships that we offer through the Transfer Bridges program, this actually just came up a couple weeks ago. We have a program that's called the GLACE program. So it's the Great Lakes Arts, Culture, and Environment program at the University of Michigan Biological Station. And it's up north. If you're familiar with Michigan, it's just south of the Mackinac Bridge. It's in the middle of the woods. It's really rustic and really naturey, not my kind of thing, but it's a really cool opportunity. But students get to go there for 4 weeks. They get to earn 6 U of M college credits. We give them a stipend, and they get to learn the humanities through a natural science lens. And they're participating with current U of M students and other community college students as well. But one of the situation that we came up, as we're evolving in our thoughts and our practices was, a student came to me, she's a single mom. I'm sorry, not a single mom. She is married and she has a child. Her husband does work full time from home. She is going back to college. She never had the opportunities before. And she was like, Nick, I really would love to go and participate in the GLACE program, but I cannot leave my husband and my child for 4 weeks and do that. That's just not an option. And I'm like, wow, like this never, it kind of took me back. I'm like, how, we haven't confronted this before, in the few years we've been doing this. And so I'm like, yeah, this is what we should be doing. We should be offering these accommodations to all transfer students, but specifically thinking about our non-traditional students. And so I went to, the directors of the biological station. I was like, do you even have family housing? Like, I kind of felt silly that I hadn't even thought about it at that point. And so they do. And so I'm like, oh, we will pay for your husband and your child to go with you, to accompany you, so that you can get this experience. They also can get this experience as well, so that you're together as a family. So kind of removing that barrier as well, for our students that are in our program. So kind of going back to your first question, the misconception was a lot of students were like, not, transfer students, they don't have time to be engaged. Oh, am I freezing? Uh-oh. Did I freeze? I'm so sorry. Am I
You're-
frozen?
We can see you now.
It froze on my end. But a lot of that misconception was from the University of Michigan. Transfer students don't, if they're not showing up, they don't want to be engaged. Well, that's just absolutely false. Absolutely false. We were not, being mindful of their needs and what they need to be able to engage in our programs. And again, that comes from simple things like just recruitment advising, to actual internships and fellowships. We were not being mindful of that. So, the engagement, the desire to engage in these programs is there. We learned that we had to be more accommodating and more flexible in our own approaches.
Thank you so much, Nick. Shelby, what are some misconceptions that you think affect transfer students?
Yeah, and Nick, that's so interesting to hear how different institutions are doing transfer. I love to see it, because the beauty of transfer is you really can make it work for your institution. So when I started at Colorado Mesa University, we had never had a specific admissions person. So I was like, oh, yay, I get to figure this sort of thing out. And I think the biggest misconception was what we do for first year students will work for transfer students. And that just is not the nature of transfer, at least from the admission standpoint, but certainly from the advising standpoint. Because I think when you're treating a student who is sometimes non-traditional, maybe is coming in with an associate's degree or had, a rough first semester and wanted to transfer somewhere else, they have these different experiences. So a standardized process doesn't necessarily work for them. And one misconception that we really worked on was I showed, at least in our admissions office, the transfer calendar is so different than our first year freshman calendar, because we're in open enrollment college and we have students that will be starting in January, that will start in June, that will start in August. And while they were on a 12-month, I always say wash, rinse, repeat cycle, we were on 3 times in 12 months doing this admissions process for students. And sometimes we would have a student that we would work with that wanted to transfer in the spring, who circumstances came up and needed to shift to be a fall start. And having a flexibility within your processes really was effective for us at the admissions level, because we got rid of some of that rigidity that 18-year-olds, I work with them now, they need it. But, we were bringing an adult student in who decides 3 weeks before classes start that they're ready to go back to school. We need to be there to meet them where they're at and say, great, it's not last minute in transfer world, let's get it going. And then another misconception I think I experienced personally, and in reflecting on conversations with some of the students that worked in our admissions office and that we had the opportunity to work with, was when you're coming from a previous college, you know how to do college. You have college knowledge, right? And I remember going myself from this community college that maybe had 350 students in the whole thing, and going to our state's lone 4-year institution at the University of Wyoming. And I felt like a fish out of water. But I'm like, I know how to use an advisor. I know how to register for classes, but I don't know how to access these things that I know I should be utilizing. And so it's the misconception that just because you've done college elsewhere, that you should be able to figure it out in our system. But like I started with, every college is so different. Here at Colorado Mesa University, our financial aid and our advising department is in a one-stop, and it's called an acronym. And education loves acronyms, right? But if I'm online and just looking through a directory for advising, I'm never going to think to look for an acronym called IRIS for an advising department. So kind of having to step back and really say, by making it easy for everyone, it's going to benefit not just our transfer and non-traditional students, but also our first-year freshman students.
Thank you. I really like that takeaway of making it easier for everyone benefits all students. That's awesome. Okay, so now we're going to move into some specific questions for each of our panelists. I'll start with Shelby. So today's topic of discussing inter and intra-campus connections took a lot of inspiration from your 2022 NISTS presentation. It was called It Takes All of Us, Creating Cross-Campus Partnerships to Support Transfer Student Success. In that presentation, you emphasized the importance of collaborations between admissions representatives, student affairs professionals, administrators, academic departments, a lot of people to best support transfer students. Could you share some specific strategies or initiatives that have been particularly effective at Colorado Mesa to foster these cross-campus partnerships to support transfer students? And what kind of role do you see transfer students themselves playing in these collaborations?
Yeah, thank you so much. And that presentation was so much fun. So I'm excited that I get to talk about it again. But really, these partnerships came from a lack of systems that could support transfer students. And so as I was seeing from an admission standpoint, so really the beginning of this process for many of our students, I was like, I built this relationship with our students, and then who am I handing them off to ensure that not only are they getting advising, but we used to always say in our office, we're not just here for A to B, we're A to G, admissions to graduation. I don't care if you're making it to, advising appointment. We've got to make sure that we are nailing every single one of these steps for you, because it's not enough to just get you here. We got to get you graduated, because that data is so telling, right? I know as a transfer student myself, the feeling of there's so many opportunities to stop out and just say, this is too much. I don't know what to do. This is confusing. And so by building these partnerships with every office that would have an impact on students. And I recognize our size of our institution, we're about 10,000 students, makes that a little easier, I imagine, than a University of Michigan, right? These large R1 institutions, or certainly a University of Texas. But we had folks who were also feeling these challenges. They just didn't have anyone to come to. And so by finding with our advising group, who's the person that transfer students are coming to? Most oftentimes I found that I could ask the transfer student athletes, who are you going to? Because the coaches are always the ones that are sending them to folks who can get it done, right? And so I remember asking our transfer basketball team students, who are you going to in advising? I need to know this person. And then getting them at the table, getting our credit transfer folks in the registrar's office at the table. And really the three of us, admissions, advising, and registrars, sitting down and just no ego saying, where are we messing up? What's happening here? And then from there, branching out and working with our faculty members in the departments where we saw most of our transfer students. A lot of our students get those gen eds done at a community college to transfer into a nursing program, a professional program like our business school. So how are we working with those departments to make sure that by the time they're here, there's nothing that they've missed? Nothing's more devastating than getting an associate's degree to then go into a bachelor's to be told, you missed a step, you have to go back. So how are we smoothing the path for them? And then finally, the biggest piece, which I think I still use this to this day, is your best friend needs to be your institutional research partners. If you don't have data to back up what you're saying, I can bang the cymbal for transfer students all day, but if I'm not bringing the data to the table of saying, we're not retaining these students well, or our business students that transfer aren't graduating from our business college, and that's a disservice. Having that hardcore, reliable data helped with the administrative piece, because the further up we started to go, unfortunately, when you go further up, you lose that day-to-day interaction with students. And so the numbers talk for you. So that would kind of be my insights into those partnerships, but clearly could talk about this all day.
We'd love to hear it. I really like what you said about sort of leaving your ego at the door in recognizing where you might currently have room to grow, and realizing that, you're not always doing a perfect job, and that's okay. And that's, where you make those collaborations and reach out to other folks on your campus. So I like that insight. Okay, so Nick, as the project manager for Transfer Bridges at University of Michigan, you've worked to increase college access and promote liberal arts education among transfer students, particularly those who are underrepresented at the university. Can you elaborate on how your program has facilitated partnerships between Michigan and community colleges like Henry Ford College? And what recommendations would you give to those who are considering pursuing these types of partnerships between 2-year and 4-year institutions?
Absolutely. Great question. And so I think to begin this, I will need to give some more context about this program and some background history about how this came to be. So for Transfer Bridges to the Humanities, like Carolyn said, it is grant funded through the Mellon Foundation. 8 years ago, this was the former Associate Dean's vision of propping that door open and increasing that access for transfer students. So the Transfer Bridges to the Humanities program is a partnership between the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts at the University of Michigan and Henry Ford College, Grand Rapids Community College, and Schoolcraft College. So we really run on two parallel goals with this program. So the first is the actual grant itself. So offering these experiences in the humanities and the social sciences to all students at those 3 community colleges. The students do not have to be a humanities major or a social science major. The purpose was because the humanities, well, more broadly, the liberal arts are under attack. They want us to offer as many resources as possible so that students can get really their feet wet into the liberal arts and explore all the different facets of that and how influential it can be for their academic career and their professional career. So that was that's the first goal that we have with our current Transfer Bridges to the Humanities program. The second goal was to, again, that increasing access was, okay, so students are participating in these humanistic opportunities. Well, is this an opportunity for them to transfer to the University of Michigan? This was a way for us to, again, do that individualized recruitment and pre-transfer academic advising. That, again, showing that the door is open. It's not fully open because we have a lot of barriers still in place at the University of Michigan that we're trying to knock down. But nonetheless, the door is open, and we are here to offer that individualized support. So it was really kind of increasing our acceptance rates with our students from the community colleges, because as it stands at the University of Michigan, we take more 4-year transfers than we do community college students. And that's something that leadership in our college wants to drastically switch. So that's just a little context about the actual program itself. So as you can imagine, when we started this program, a lot of these community colleges were hesitant because U of M was just absent from the conversation. They were just absent. We had been involved, I guess, in the late 90s, but then we kind of just packed up shop and went away. And so there was some hesitancy about starting this sort of partnership, specifically with Henry Ford College. They were our first partner school. And that was during the first 3 to 4 years of the Transfer Bridges program. During the second phase of the Transfer Bridges program, we extended it to these 2 more community colleges. So these partnerships, they take a lot of work every single day. That is my job, is to make sure that the University of Michigan is hearing the concerns and the needs of the community colleges. So to answer your question, Carolyn, a few things that how we approach the partnership and how we make sure that we're all on the same page. So, the first thing that we do and that we had to remind ourselves of is let the community colleges lead the discussion. Let them lead the vision for this program. We are here, the University of Michigan, we have a lot of resources at our disposal. And so we have this, but let's let the community colleges tell us how to implement these. Tell us, which ones would work the best for their student populations, or how best to engage their student populations, as opposed to just us, kind of like a bull in a china shop just coming in and being like, we're here, that's not how that works by any means. So, really that would be something that I recommend, to four-year institutions, is let those community colleges lead the discussion. In that, let the student voices dictate what you're doing and what the needs are, because that will shape your entire program. The things that we did in the first phase of Transfer Bridges to the Humanities, some of those things we got rid of because they weren't working for students, or they weren't what they were looking for. So we added new things, or we drastically changed new things in the second iteration of Transfer Bridges. So having those student voices at the table with leadership while you're developing these partnerships is absolutely key to having these strong partnerships. The second thing would be clear objectives. So you want to make sure that you always recenter yourself on, I have weekly meetings with the PIs of our grants. So some of them are deans, some of them are associate deans, of the community colleges, just making sure that we always are understanding what our objectives were from the beginning. And sometimes those do change, but those involve larger conversations. And because there's so many layers to this, there's so many individual units that are involved at the University of Michigan alone. So we have the advising center, we have admissions, we have the recruiters in LSA, we have the Sweetland Center for Writing, the Language Resource Center. All of these opportunities are engaged at U of M. We take those on the road to the community colleges so our transfer students can engage with them. So it's not only just engaging with our community college partners, but it's making sure we're all on the same page at the University of Michigan, that we have a consistent message that we're bringing to the community colleges. So what I would recommend, because things are so layered in this program, is process mapping. That you really need to work out a situation where, so I'll take advising, for example. When we started the second phase of Transfer Bridges, we just went right into it with 3 community college partners. We didn't take a breath and say, wait a minute, how does Grand Rapids Community College, what does their advising system look like? How can we connect that with our advisors and recruiters? What does that communication look like? We didn't do that. So that was a huge lesson we learned as we're going into our next phase of Transfer Bridges. So it's really important to take that beat, take that, that step back, and connect with your institutional partners, but your community college partners as well, and really create those working groups. So we have working groups in our Transfer Bridges to the Humanities. So the advisors are with the advisors, the admissions, representatives are with the recruiters, the writing centers with the writing center, so that way they can develop their own process. We give them space to develop what will work best for them as opposed to a top-down approach. So that would be something that I would definitely change. That did not work well for us 2.5 years ago when we started phase 2, but really getting those processes down in place in writing, an agreement between all of the partners, both at the community colleges and the 4 years. So what you're working towards, and what is expected of the group.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It sounds like a really incredible program, and I love hearing your insights from what has and has not worked over the years. But your comment about listening to student voices and listening and figuring out what the students actually need, I think is really important, and brings me into my conclusion question for both of you, which is, given your experiences in managing programs that connect underrepresented students with four-year universities, what role do you see student leaders on those campuses playing in sustaining those partnerships to help facilitate smoother transfer processes and long-term support for those transfer students? And Shelby, we'll start with you.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I was thinking about this when Nick was talking about student voice too. When I was in transfer admissions, we had transfer ambassadors. And these were the students who were transfer students at the institution that were helping us with our outreach, that were helping us with orientation, that were doing a lot of the credit analysis that we were doing for students who, transfer students are like, I'm not quite sure where I'm going to go. We'll just do a preliminary analysis of your credits for you. So this is really where the students came in, was they were the ones who were helping not only do the work, but push the initiatives forward. And I used to always say it was so fun. We would go get Chick-fil-A on campus, me and the transfer ambassadors, and just listening to them talk and what's going on in their life was informative of what is the transfer experience like here. While they're all from different parts of the state, across the nation, different ages, they all had that one common thread as transfer students. And so how was it affecting them differently? We had one student that was this theater major, didn't know a stranger, and was in virtually every club. I'm like, you need to stop. You need to say no. And by utilizing that, like, how did you get engaged in things? How did you get involved in all of these clubs? It's like, great, this is the person that we need to have running our club fair as transfer orientation. We need to have this person like utilizing their strengths as student leaders. Additionally, I think is using them as alumni as well. So when you have transfer students who have come to your campus and done amazing things and then go off into the world, how are you working with your alumni association? So it kind of changes how, when we're in enrollment management, especially, keeping students to graduation, but now it's like, okay, now what comes after G is getting a hold of them once they leave, keeping track of the stories of these amazing students and the work that they're going on to do. So how do you have conversations with your alumni association about how are we keeping track of our students who transfer in? Am I able to hop on a call with them? Would they be willing to talk to a prospective student that I have coming in? Because alumni love to talk to current students, and they love to rep their college. Like, I know at the University of Wyoming, someone wants to ask me about Wyoming, I could gab all day about it. So really using that passion to not only help with student recruitment, but also belonging on campus.
Awesome. Thank you. I like that idea of harnessing the power of alumni, and that might not be one that we often think of. So that's awesome. Nick, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, very similar to Shelby. So I hate to say ditto, but one thing I would say that we have done drastically better on is sharing out those students' stories via the college and the university. That is something that we were not doing. But it's the power of that, those student stories, and the one student, her stories on our financial aid website, Go Blue Guarantee, and she called her transfer bridge experience transformational because it got her to her dream goal. And she never thought she had the chance to do that. So that was something where, again, going off of what Shelby said, that's something we've gotten so much better at doing with our marketing team, not just in the College of LSA, but across the university as well, that it's a priority. Like, it's becoming a priority at the University of Michigan. And if it's not a priority to some leadership, it's going to be, right? We're going to keep sharing these stories and interviewing these students, and kind of going back to what I said, like, that's how I got my start with, I love sharing people's stories. And so that was something we realized that we did have a gap on. We need the students to lead the conversation. We need the students to share their story, to further these types of programs and to advocate for these types of programs, because their experience is drastically different than mine as a staff member or the faculty members. They're the ones that will influence and shape the forthcoming transfer initiatives and help lead the way with that.
Awesome. I love that, of promoting the student stories. They're the ones who, as you said, they know their experiences the best. Us as, staff members or administrators, we can't always speak to the students' experiences. So I love that, sharing student stories. All right. So that concludes my questions. I do want to ask Jeff, have there been any recurring themes in the Q&A or anything that's come up in the chat that we might want to ask?
Yeah, we had some questions early on that were largely answered already by the panelists, talking about developing transfer pathways and how do you create those relationships with two-year institutions. But one that's getting some love in the chat right now is about how do you suggest that four-year institutions help with the pre-transfer advising, go physically to other campuses, collaboration training with other institutions, advisors. We would love to hear your perspectives on that.
Yeah, I can jump in really quick. So, great question. We are fortunate in our grant that we are able to go to our 3 partner community colleges once a week. So we have a physical location on each of those campuses, a physical office, whether it's House in the Honors or Trio. We're fortunate to do that. So students, it's consistent too. So it's alliteration, but Michigan Mondays or Wolverine Wednesdays, it's become ingrained in the community colleges. So that's something we do right off the bat. And we also try to hit up the other Michigan community colleges as well, at least twice a semester, because we're looking at extending this transfer bridges model to all Michigan community colleges over the next 10 years. We also do collaboration, just like Angie, you had questioned. We do trainings between our Noonan academic advisors, which are the academic advisors for the College of LSA at the University of Michigan, and the community college advisors as well. U of M still has we have made such great strides in our transfer process, but we have a long way to go with transfer credit as well, and we acknowledge that. So I would say, again, in those meetings, in those collaboration professional development trainings, again, it's not just here comes U of M, we're taking the reins, but we are giving information about where it currently stands at the University of Michigan and updates of what we're doing. But we also let the community college advisors take the reins as well and talk about, the different facets to an associate's degree, because we do encourage students to get their associate's degree before they transfer. So it's a lot of collaboration, and I will say it has changed every year how we do things, just meeting the needs of those transfer students again, and what we're hearing on the ground. So basically everything you said, Angie, that is what we are doing, and it's worked out well so far. But again, kind of going back, like I wish that we had these meetings, between phase 1 and phase 2. I think that we would have had less headaches in the process, but we're certainly getting to where we need to be.
Yeah, I think that's great, Nick. And one thing that, so we're located in Western Colorado. So I see some folks from CU Boulder and some of our other Front Range Colorado schools here. So we're about 4 hours from Denver and 4 hours from Salt Lake. So we just kind of sit in this in-between zone. And so all of our community colleges are spread across the state. And so the idea of traveling, I was like, we've got to make the most of these trips when we go to these colleges. And so again, from our partnership crew, I asked nicely for our transfer advisor, who all the athletes were going to, and then our credit analysts in the registrar's office. We made a roadshow of it. And so we would go, and the 3 of us would set up tables at these transfer fairs, and students would come up to us, and I would say, you got an unofficial transcript? Awesome. Jen's going to do your review for you, and we can start kind of talking about advising, but really making the most for meeting students where they were at. Another tool that we used, because our budget for travel was restricted, is I tapped into those programs that are working with students at the community colleges, primarily full circle moment, our TRIO programs. So I found that at the community college, our student support service programs were amazing tools, and giving them a little lunchtime training. It's like, I'll DoorDash Jimmy John's to your office, and then we're going to sit down and I'm going to talk about some common challenges that Colorado Community College students are having when they're transferring to our institution. And when you're meeting with these students, how are we having conversations about the math progression that they need to have here versus at the community college? Are their English credits in alignment with where they need to be? There's notoriously this one class for all of our health science degrees that is not offered in the community college system. How can we work ahead of that and get them in an online class beforehand? So just some quick trainings there. We kind of had to get a little creative with it, but that's the beauty of advising, is it's it's great to be there in person, but Zoom also makes it super accessible too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Jeff, I'll turn it back to you. Was there anything else from the chat, Jeff, that you wanted to mention?
No, I would just say there's some good chat going on right now about this topic on a few different little threads. So if the presenters have a moment, well, once we move over to student presentations, or if anyone else on the call can add to it, getting lots of good perspectives here and tips and some follow-up questions. So hope to continue it there as we move on to a very related topic with our student presentation.
Yeah, so thank you so much to Shelby and Nick for your insights. I loved hearing about both of your programs, and I think you cover a good scope of different types of programs, and you both have awesome experiences, both with transfer students and other types of students. So thank you both so much. And now we will transition into our student presentation.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you.
So I am really pleased to introduce the student presenters for day 2. The Hostess Community College Peer Mentor Program is dedicated to guiding students through the transfer process to four-year institutions. Their initiative pairs students with experienced mentors who provide personalized assistance in navigating articulation agreements, ensuring that students not only gain acceptance, but also successfully enroll and register at their chosen universities. Their program is an incredible model of mentorship and hands-on practical support for students who are seeking to support or seeking to transfer to four-year institutions. And their peer mentor program has boosted their students' transfer application rate from 23% in the fall of 2022 to 75% in the spring of 2024. Their program is an incredible model of transfer support programs, so I'm really pleased for us to learn from them, and really pleased to introduce today Samantha, Christina, and Adrian.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Samantha Maldonado, and I'm the Assistant Director here at the Transfer Services at Hostess Community College, and I have my peer mentors with me.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adrian. I was a peer mentor, but now I'm currently an admissions advisor for the Office of Admissions and Recruitment here at Hostos. It's great to meet you guys.
Hi everyone, my name is Christina Gonzalez. I'm a alumni, Hostos alumni, and I work as a college assistant in the transfer service for 2 years. Nice to meet you.
All right, so this program is so essential and important because our peer mentors, including myself, we all transfer students. Christina is alumni from Hostos, and she's currently doing her psychology, correct? Sorry.
Yes, I'm doing my bachelor's in Lehman. So I'm studying business administration and a minor in marketing.
Sorry, as another mentor who's doing the psychology. Adrian, he has his bachelor's from Lehman College too, and he's also looking into enroll for his master's soon. I'm alumni from Hostos and also alumni from Lehman College, and I'm currently doing my master's in the School of Public Health. And yeah, well, our program we have 4 mentors currently because Adrian is now working for the admissions office, but most of our mentors are currently doing their bachelor's degree, and the process they usually so we have different lists depending on the semesters, but we usually focus on the students that have more than 40 credits, and we call them twice and we email them to make sure they come if they haven't build a transfer plan, and we target them first, and then we go and start a transfer plan for the students that have less than 40 credits. And then, but our first target is the 40 plus, and then the 40 and under, Then we also do reconnect. We call students that didn't finish the degree for any reason and try to bring them back. We do transfer fairs. Usually what has worked for me, I've been in this position for about 8 to 9 months, and my first fair, I believe I brought to school 30 colleges, and then this last fair I brought 64 colleges. And something that worked for me was about to send an email, a save the date. And we do the tours, we do tabling every Tuesday. We bring up between 3 to 5 colleges every Tuesday. We do something that is called a snack and apps, and we have food, and we invite the students to come and just do the transfer plans. And we what else? And we also have something that is called Decision Day, that is about when before graduation we celebrate the students. And I think that's about it. What else we do? We have Zoom appointment. We do Zoom appointments. We do in-person appointments. We currently have an agreement with the business office. So we have 2 locations for students to come. Our campus is like 5 different buildings, and we are located like in the Bronx. So it's very good that we have an office in the building that where more classes are. Our main office is like in the administrative building and like in the back. So that office in the C building is really helpful for us. It's easier for students to come to. So we also have Saturday hours if our students are maybe at work during the week, or they just on students that come fully online. We have office hours on Saturdays, and I'm trying to figure it out what else. I think that's it. Yeah. So now we're gonna show you guys presentation. And then let's see. Oh, sorry, I forgot something else. We do class visits. Yes. So we target students that are in their first year seminar classes, and so depending on their majors, we target all the first classes that they have to take. So we target those students, and we also target the students that are about to graduate. They usually take a class that is a cap class. So those are our main targets when it comes to the class. Yeah, okay, let me just share here. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep, we
Adrian?
can see it.
Yeah, okay. Oops, sorry. You see the presentation?
Mhm.
Okay, there. Go ahead, Adrian, you can start.
Okay, so welcome everyone. My name is Adrian, again, as you heard. This is our transfer services presentation that we usually do for our class visits, or things of that nature. So just starting off, welcome to Hostos Transfer Services. If you can click the next slide, perfect. Okay, so we usually start the presentation by discussing what happens during your first semester here at Hostos. So here at Transfer Services, we like to help students develop a transfer plan, as Samantha mentioned, just to kind of get them started, get them thinking about what colleges and what majors that they want to potentially look into when they complete their 2 years here at Hostos. So again, exploring different academic programs, both available even at other types of colleges. So we are CUNY. So we also give information on SUNY colleges, private colleges, and public institutions. We review the applications and the deadlines the deadlines and the requirements for those applications with the students. Again, talking about resumes, recommendation letters, portfolios, things like that. And again, we also introduced students to their career coaches and scholarship coordinators. And we, like Samantha said, we also do school visits. Okay, so this is one of my favorite slides, right? Because it's a little bit jam-packed, but I'll condense it really quickly. A lot of students aren't really aware of the types of degrees that exist, the differences between AA degrees and AS degrees, and AAS degrees, right? So a typical associate degree over here at CUNY is 60 credits. I like to explain AA degrees, Associates in Arts, as a degree that's more focused on reading and writing, and an Associates in Science, or AS, more focused on math and science, right? AAS degrees are usually degrees that you can hop right into work right after you're completed. So as with our allied health majors, so like nursing, rad technology, dental hygiene, things like that. They're mostly between 2 to 3 year degrees. They're very introductory. And again, associate degree holders, hold an annual like medium income of 46,120 per year, right? Compared to somebody who would have only a high school diploma, which is 50%, right? 50%. A bachelor's degree, I like to say it's like a step up in the associate level, so which it is. So a BA is just an AA turned into a bachelor's, right? So bachelor's of the associates, bachelor's of arts, bachelor's of science, BFA, bachelor's of fine arts, BBA, so bachelor's in business administration. So again, these are 4-year degrees typically, a total of 120 credits, which they can take at a senior college. And again, students with a bachelor's degree earn significantly higher compared to somebody with an associate's degree or just a high school diploma. So next slide. Next slide. Okay, so bachelor's programs, right? Or bachelor's to master's programs. So on CUNY, we have a website called Academic Programs that shows you the types of degrees. So BA/MAs are one of them. So so an MA is a master's degree. It's typically awarded after 1 to 2 years of graduate study, after following a bachelor's degree. A BA/MA is a combination of both a bachelor's in arts and a master's in arts, right? They also have BS to MS, which is the same thing. Again, it allows the student to attain both a bachelor's and a master's, sometimes in a total of 3 years. And this is great because like for students who just want to immediately get into their master's, this is a fantastic opportunity. So next slide. So examples of BA/MA programs, we have one in psychology, along with a completion of a credentialed alcoholism and substance abuse counselor. So the KSAC program, which it was something that I studied back in when I did social work in Lehman. And again, psychology BA with a track to do psychology research. The college that offers that right now is City CCNY, so I believe that's City College of New York. And yeah, next slide, please. Okay, so now I will pass it along to my co-host Christina. Just give us 1 second.
Hi everyone. So the steps to transfer, we're gonna discuss 4 years of semesters. You should transfer and look at different majors that schools offer and identify your path, which classes are best to use using CUNY transfer explorers and establish a transfer plan. Um, 3 semesters before you transfer, start exploring for your college's options, visit campuses and review your plan in case of any changes. 2 semesters before you transfer, apply for admissions. For those who apply to SUNY or private colleges, you should start sending your hostel's transcript through Parchment and create an account, and you can like get your transcripts and through a PDF version. One semester before you transfer, make your final decision, which school you wish to attend to, and review your financial aid, your FAFSA application, which includes the school codes for the colleges and you will be enrolled at. Keep track of your next steps, emails sent by colleges you apply to, and attend to orientation session in the school that you wish to go to.
So this is some of the curriculum requirements. I'm gonna play a video. Caroline, let me know if it works, please.
Here's what you need to know about
Yeah, it's good.
CUNY's curriculum requirements. Associate degrees require approximately 60 college credits, and bachelor degrees require approximately 120 college credits. Students accumulate credits by taking and passing courses determined by 3 types of curriculum requirements. 1. General education pathway courses. These 30-credit Common Core courses transfer for equal credit across CUNY and form the foundation of a general education. 2. Major-specific courses. Each major has its own set of subject-specific required courses and electives. 3. General electives. Most additional liberal arts courses. The number required varies according to the major. Each type of degree has different overall requirements, so be sure to consult with your advisor and check your degree audit system regularly to understand your specific degree requirements. If you are struggling with coursework, resources are available. Professors, study groups, peers, tutoring centers, counseling centers, and advisors. Make use of one or all of these services to get yourself back on track. Before you withdraw from any course, talk to your advisor and professor about your options. Don't lose those credits unnecessarily. Completing curriculum requirements is the key to earning your degree. Know what is required and seek out support when you're choosing classes or making decisions about your education. Take charge of your CUNY curriculum.
Okay. This is the pathway. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. The pathways promise.
What's the fastest way to get relief for toenail fungus? Is it A, apple cider vinegar? Is it B, tea tree oil?
What is the Pathways Promise? So, you know the basics. Pathways is CUNY's general education curriculum, which is required of all undergraduate students across the university. These are the courses you must take across a variety of disciplines, in addition to the courses you take to fulfill the requirements of your major and the courses you take as electives. But do you know about the Pathways Promise? This is the university-wide guarantee that if you transfer between CUNY colleges, you can take your earned credits with you. Every credit you've earned will transfer from one college to another. Pathways courses for general education credit will transfer as general education credits. Major gateway courses will transfer for credit within that same major. This is CUNY's promise to its students, and it's the reason that Pathways exists. If you run into problems transferring credits, there is an appeals process available. Information is available on cuny.edu/pathways. Know your rights and your responsibilities, and take charge of your CUNY education. What is general education all about? Jane is a CUNY student. She came to college planning to major in history. It was always one of her strongest subjects in high school. When Jane registered for classes, her advisor told her that in addition to her history courses, she would also have to take courses in other disciplines, as required by Pathways, CUNY's general education curriculum. Why do I have to take courses in math and science when I know that I want to be a history major? Jane's advisor explained that general education requirements are the foundation of a college education, and they provide the broader critical thinking and problem-solving skills that are necessary for any career path. Plus, her advisor said, taking non-major courses can be a great way to discover new interests. So Jane signed up for courses to fulfill her Pathways requirements, as well as courses in her major. As the semester started, Jane was learning about the Grand Canyon in her American history class, and also in her geology class that she took to fulfill the life and physical science Pathways requirement. Then she heard from a classmate about an anthropology course. Jane had never heard of anthropology, but the combination of history and science sounded right up her alley. The next semester, she signed up for her first anthropology course. Fast forward a few semesters, and Jane declared anthropology as her major, with a minor in history. And this summer, she'll be interning at an archaeological dig in the Grand Canyon, all because of the Pathways requirement that opened her eyes to a new area of interest. That's what general education is all about. Take charge of your CUNY education.
All right, this is some of the transfer tools that we use. Transfer Explorer. So this usually students can have access either by Googling CUNY Transfer Explorer, or they have access in their CUNY First account. And this is where they can see how their credits transfer towards another CUNY. CUNY to CUNY, they can say a subject from subject, of class to from class to class. And then this is another page where they start their research. This is CUNY academic programs. They can learn more about different colleges. All the CUNY colleges are in this webpage. By degree program or by degree type, they can do their research. And it goes very, very in detail. All the requirements, all their classes, all their curriculum, everything is in this page. So when they come to start building their transfer plan, we usually tag them here. And then we also use the transfer, the T-Rex, to compare their credits, how they're going to transfer over, depending on the major they select in the next school. And that's all. Thank you, guys. I'm not sure if I was stop sharing. Okay.
Thank you all so much. Jeff, were there any questions in the chat that we might want to ask our presenters, or any common themes from the chat?
Something that came up was just about the value of having the experience at both the 2-year and 4-year institution, and if you could just speak to, like, the differences that makes in building relationships.
Sure. So for me, it's very easy to, I believe, connect with students since I was one of them before, and I was a single mom when I was here at hostels, and I get a lot of them too, and asking for resources. So it's easier for me to pinpoint people here to guide them and like to support them in different ways, whether it's food pantry, whether it's maybe a college assistant job or anything. Um, and going out, usually when I sit with the students that are currently doing like community health, that was my major here. They're like, oh, I don't know what job I'm gonna get with this degree. I'm just doing it because X, Y, and Z. And then I based on my experience, I can tell them, well, you can work with kids, you can work in a hospital, you can work in a college. Look at me. And they're like, oh, okay. So what I do next? And then I tell them, when I went to Lehman, but you can do this, social work dependent. What do you like? And then from that conversation, then we start building her transfer plan. But is I believe my experience and as a student here and at Lehman and even being back at hostels is very, it gives me some sort of power because I was there and now I can give back. So it's very, very fulfilling to be able to talk about my experience and also tell them like there's a lot more out there for you guys. But yeah.
That's fantastic. Adrian or Christina, do you have anything to add?
For me, I never originally coming out of high school, college was something that I never really saw myself doing, let alone getting a bachelor's degree and getting this far. Um, I know what it's like, and I feel like, maybe some or most of us know what it's like to be lost after we complete our degree programs and we're looking for our jobs and, what next to do. And I feel like CUNY is very, you know, very resourceful and very amazing in helping students get connected with, what happens after college, even as an alumni or as a current student. And I think that's something, again, Samantha mentioned fulfilling, and, being one of those students who were like in that position of being lost and being able to give back to the same institution that helped to educate me was something that's very impactful for me and very fulfilling, and I'm glad to be able to help guide students to where they need to go.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
For my experience, Hostels has been so helpful and resourceful. Um, During April 2023, I had lost my mom in the middle of the semester, and Hostels um was able to provide the resources that I needed, such as career services, the one-stop shop for food pantry, MetroCards, um, and scholarships that I was able to apply to, which helped me get into Lehman College, which I was so grateful for. And now I get to help students and resonate with them, um, and share the experience that I had went through and hostels. So it feels very like a positive impact in students' lives, and um I'm happy to make a change for the better.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing your story as well.
Wanted to ask Adrian, can you share maybe an experience with a student?
During my time here at Transfer Services, I got the chance to meet with a student. Her name is Aldonia Wynn. And she came to us as a non-traditional student. She had you know, she had attended college before, but then had stopped to take care of life situations. And then she had come back to Hostos to complete her degree here. And, you know, upon meeting her, you know, she showed me how passionate she was to pursue a bachelor's in social work. And, you know, that again, you know, getting specifically a bachelor's at Lehman, which is exactly what I did. And so, of course, you know, I was more than happy to help her. And so, you know, we applied for the for Lehman College, and after we submitted that application, I sent her on her way. And you know, a couple weeks later, she comes back into the office, you know, looking really down. And she tells me that she had gotten a rejection letter from Lehman. And you know, of course, this was extremely disappointing. So what I had done was that same day I had met with a Lehman representative who works at the college every Wednesday. And I had met her, and then immediately I sent her an email. I CC'd the student and I asked them, hey, you know, we would like to know, you know, what can be done or why the rejection was happening. And after we sent that email, the representative immediately got in contact with Miss Nguyen, and they took it from there. A few days later, I see an email from the representative saying that they had changed their decision from deny to accept. And immediately the next day I got a call from Miss Nguyen, ecstatic, happy, you know, looking forward to continue and pursue her degree in social work. You know, we need more social workers out here, right? Um, so she told me how thankful she was, not just to transfer services or to myself, but just to Hostos. And you know, she immediately wanted to come in the day after to give me a hug, but unfortunately, I was not in the office that day, so I couldn't. Um,
I was here. She
oh,
kept screaming. I think she
they
doesn't want to mention her age, but she's 56 years old. And she was inspiring her kids, and they went back to school. And she came screaming. She was looking for Adrian. I was like, I thought she was gonna say something bad, but she was just so excited to be able to continue her education. She was very passionate about actually working with high school students, which is big. I was like, you must have a lot of patience. And she's like, I love them. They're their future. They're our future. And I think it's a very thanks for sharing, Adrian. Very important story, but we get this a lot. Like, and we do the work after. Like, if they get denied, we reach out to the college and we like push until they get accepted. If it's possible, if not, we go with the second option. But we advocate for our students as much as we can because that's our job.
Well, I want to thank y'all so much. You know, these were amazing stories, and just hearing the impact you have on your students, and then the examples you gave. This is multi-generation impacts that you're having. And so let's show them some love in the chat, y'all. This was a great presentation. Thank you so much. And Carolyn, are we gonna jump to the Padlet for takeaways?
Yeah, do we want to do the wheel of names first, just in case anyone needs to hop off?
Sure, sounds great. Let me pull that up. Y'all can see the wheel of names? All right. Best of luck to everyone. Sariti Washington, if you are on, can you hop off your mic or jump in the chat real quick?
Aloha. Yes, that's me. Yay.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for attending. Yeah. And now I will just hop right over to our Padlet. Some of y'all have already jumped on, which is fantastic. The link is in the chat. And we are going to collect these responses too and try to make them available either as a link or as a document in our summit folder that we've also linked in the chat, but you'll also be getting a follow-up email later this week or early next week with that link once again. But yeah, seeing some really great stuff here, both from our panelists and our presenters. So thank you so much. Before I give it to Carolyn to close us out, I just want to give a huge thanks to her. She has spearheaded this year's summit, finding presenters, researching topics, reaching out to students, trying to find as many of y'all who have joined your email addresses and students, staff, faculty. So huge thanks to Carolyn for pulling it off this year.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I love seeing all the takeaways come in. And to answer that question, yes, we could definitely share all the videos from our presenters today when we share the follow-up email, and a lot of that will be in the box folder that I just linked as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for participating in our day 2 and our final day of our Transfer Summit this year. Feel free to share your contact information in the chat. We will also be sending out sort of the networking sheet that we've put together of anyone who was willing to provide their contact information when you signed up. So we will send that out as well. But if you'd like to contact each other, feel free to drop your information in the chat right now. And we can leave that open for a couple minutes so you all can exchange information. But I want to thank our presenters once again. Thank you, Shelby and Nick. Thank you, Christina, Adrian, and Samantha. I loved hearing about all the programs from Colorado, Michigan, and New York. I think that's the beauty of this summit, is we can bring people together from across the 50 states and see what different programs are working on across the country. So thank you, everyone. We'll leave the chat open for a little bit longer just so you all can continue to connect.